Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello, I'm Scott Bogie, here with Cody Law ahead of his fight against Zachary Hicks at PFL 7. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. And how have you prepared for Zach?
Maybe a little extra wrestling and jiu-jitsu, but we've just been kind of training as is for the last basically the whole year. And this is kind of a short notice fight, so we didn't change too much.
Yeah, because they did release the fights kind of late. How long was it when they released the fights before you found out?
I found out at about 3 or 3.5 weeks out, I think we got offered the fight. But it wasn't officially signed until right about the time they announced it.
And normally, when do you normally hear about fights?
At least 6 weeks.
So did you know that you were going to be on that card and you're in training before the opponent, or was it just, here's an opportunity, do you want it?
Yeah, no, we had no idea. I had originally thought I was only going to be fighting for Bellator this year, but I woke up one morning to a text offering to fight August 2nd. When I saw it, I actually thought we were in June still. So I thought I got 8 weeks, but we were actually in July, just early morning, and I was, oh, wow, that's like 3.5 weeks away, but couldn't turn it down.
And you're saying you thought you were going to fight in Bellator this year. Was there any cards that you were linked to? I know they're in San Diego. They've just announced that Mix will be fighting in Paris.
Yeah, I was hoping for the September or October time frame because they're US cards. I wanted to stay in the US if I could, and I saw there was going to be one in Chicago. I like fighting in Chicago. That's my last 2 fights have been. So we were kind of expecting that.
And speaking about your last fight, I'm pretty sure it was against Jefferson Pontes. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
How was that fight for you?
It was a good fight, more experience, another 3-round fight. I learned a lot. Broke my thumb pretty early, so we had to fight through that, and that was a good experience for me. And another win and another fight. Each one counts right now, as early as I am in my career.
Exactly. And what adjustments did you have to make due to breaking that thumb?
Not too many. I didn't know it was broke right until we got home and got an X. So in my head, it's sort of just like a jammed thumb, and can't really change it, and you don't feel too much in a fight anyways.
Because I know here in the UK we just had a prize fighter tournament at Cage Warriors where you fight 2 fights in one night. And one of the fighters said that after the first fight they did break their thumb, and then they didn't reveal it to the medical team, and he fought again with it. So just curious, how much does breaking the thumb or finger really affect a fight?
I would imagine it would affect quite a bit more if you had to do a second fight right afterwards, right? Because as time goes on, you swell up pretty bad, and by that night I had no function. Like I couldn't text. So I'm sure it would be pretty rough. But you got 2 hands and you got 2 legs, so find a way.
Exactly. And he was able to win that second fight as well. So he has got the title shot. Now, how has the merge from Bellator to PFL, how has that been?
Well, we'll find out. We'll see how this PFL card is, and it's going to take more time, I think, for me to really experience the full scope of things, but hopefully good.
So are PFL and Bellator, they still like separate entities?
As far as I know, they're separate entities, but we're able to fight across for both.
Okay. And during your time at Bellator, I know there was a time where you were on a 2-fight losing streak. Was there any doubts in your mind going into that third fight where you were able to get a victory? Was there any doubts going into that fight?
Well, I don't know about doubts, but it was definitely a difficult time period, right? I lost my first fight ever in my career, amateur and professional, and then going into the next fight, I I knew I needed to win and I lost. What made it more difficult was that I thought I won the fight. Um, so yeah, going into that next fight, then it was kind of a do or die situation because I think in any organization, if you lose three straight, right, you're probably out.
Yeah.
I knew that, and there was a lot of other circumstances going into it too. Moving at the same time period, staph infection during the camp. There was a lot of adversity. So it was kind of just it was tough, but it was good, and it was a big relief to just get that one out of the way and get back on track.
And and speaking to lots of different fighters, they're saying that defeats are what I think helps you improve the most because you go back and you learn a bit more about what actually happened. Do you feel like that's what happened after these fights?
Definitely. I mean, I learned a ton. Um, it's 50-50. Half of it is learning, and the other half where I'm at, when I lost that fight, I think those were my seventh and eighth fights. So still pretty early on, and I'm still learning just about fighting in general. I'm still getting better, learning the sport. So half of it is you learn from the loss, another half is you're just learning from being in there. So you put
Yeah.
those two together, and I think I've grown quite a bit since then.
And how do you recover from a fight that, like you were saying, you thought you won that second one? What do you
Mhm.
take from that? Because obviously you think that you have won it.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I thought I won it, but I still wasn't happy with it. So there was still so much. It was close enough for people to think, for two guys to think I lost. So there was still so much, especially in the grappling department where I was not where I should have been. And I think it was putting me in a bad spot. I was just I had a lot to learn when it came to MMA, BJJ, and that fight taught me a whole lot about needing to progress and do more damage and have more attacks on the ground, not just ride guys.
And obviously you were the 2018 NCAA champion, as well as becoming two-time All-American. How was those accomplishments? How did it feel?
Yeah, I mean, at that time, that was my dream. My biggest goal was to be a national champion in wrestling, and I was able to do that. So it was I was really happy. But right after that, we set a new goal for MMA. So we didn't sit around too long and dwell on it.
And then obviously you progressed into the amateur scene. You were able to get, I think it was the double MP lightweight title. Was that the next goal to get that?
No, that was more just circumstantial. Really, the amateur fights were just to get experience because leading up to that, I'd never fought before. So we needed experience, and my coaches kind of advised me for about five fights as an amateur before we went pro. And then we had a great opportunity turn up to go pro in Bellator. So that's when we decided to make the move.
And is that why most of these fights, as your amateur career, they are as a lightweight or a welterweight? 'Cause I know you now fight at featherweight.
Yeah, yeah. In amateurs in Pennsylvania, you weigh in the day of the fight. So I wasn't making 145 and fighting a couple hours later, and they weren't as serious. There was no reason to cut
Yeah.
weight. A couple of them they say lightweight or welterweight, but really it was just I think the guy said he wasn't going to make 55, so we weighed in at 60 something, and they call it welterweight. But it was just for experience.
And do you feel like with a win at the PFL, obviously I'm against Zachary Hicks, do you feel like this is your time to prove to the PFL that you can go into that regular season?
Yeah, I'm hoping that they see it that way, that get a win here and hopefully one more at the end of the year because it's early August. I think I could fight again in November. And that would put me right in line 10-2 to enter the playoffs at the beginning of next year. I think that would be I can see that happening.
And I'm guessing that will be at the featherweight division.
Yeah.
So is that the goal for this year, as long as all goes well, for you to fight again, most likely in November?
Yeah. That's my goal. That's what I'm going to be pushing for that. I've been off for a while, so I would really like to get two fights pretty close together and get ready for hopefully four fights in 2025.
And do you have anyone that you're wanting to fight, or are you just willing to just accept anyone?
I just want to get in there and fight, I need fights and experience, and that's the whole point of the sport.
And what do you feel like Hicks will bring into this fight?
I'm not sure. From what I see, I think he's going to give me maybe the most traditional standard look that I've probably had in my career. Most of the guys that I fought have been s- unorthodox. They've been either early on in my career, kind of unexperienced and wild, or a little later on in my career, they've been um, BJJ specialists or southpaws or very tall southpaws. So this may be the first guy that's a little bit more standard, wrestling, boxing, base, and I think that's going to really be fun for me.
And do you see Hicks as being your toughest test of your career so far?
I'm not sure. I think I fought a few pretty good guys that have been, like I said, unorthodox, which is tough, and then they were also pretty skilled and experienced as well. So I think I have the experience against as tough, if not tougher guys.
And how was the Bellator experience when you were with them?
It was great. You know, all of my fights have been in Bellator, so 10
Yeah,
straight professional fights, and it's been a great time. I've had a good relationship with everybody there, and uh, who knows, maybe we'll be back in there.
exactly. And how big of an opportunity would it be if Bellator came to you and goes, we have a slot in Chicago?
Wow, yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. That's a good point. That would be potentially nice. I don't know the exact date, but I guess that would be nice. We could relax for a week or two after this fight and then get right back to it and fight in October. So that's a good idea.
And do you feel like the Chicago fans are coming to become your home support?
I guess I would find out if we went back for a third time. We'll see if I notice anything.
Exactly. They'll have to come out with signs just supporting you.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to measure and see what the engagement's like.
What does a normal week in preparation for a fight look like to you? Like, how do you split up the different sessions?
Just a regular week in camp.
And do you feel like do you drain yourself to make the weight, or do you feel like you found a good balance?
No, I think I'm pretty good. I'm not one of those guys that's, obviously making 145 is not easy. I'm a
Yeah.
150-pound wrestler, so I don't weigh 145, and it's never fun, but it's also not something where I don't feel like it affects me. We get it done in a few hours total work. I'm not working out all week long. It's Wednesday night and Thursday morning, and that's it. So it's not too bad.
And what was it that inspired you to get into the cage?
A long time ago, when I was young, maybe 14 or 15, I used to watch fights all the time. I watched a George St. Pierre fight. I think it was maybe against Jake Shields. Could be wrong, but something about that night, the crowd and everything, I thought that's what I want to do when I'm done wrestling.
And has there been a time so far where you feel like what was the biggest improvement in your game from that first fight that you had to now?
The biggest improvement, I would say grappling. Uh, as a wrestler, it's been a weird journey for me with BJJ, but just recently in the last 6 months to a year, even really the last 6 months, I feel like I've learned so much more. I'm so much more comfortable, and I have a direction on the ground now. Or before I was just kind of wrestling guys, and that can be a little bit you can waste a lot of energy doing that because you don't have direction. You're just
Yeah.
kind of grappling. So that's been, I think, the biggest improvement, and I made that decision to focus more on that because of those two losses, because both of those were BJJ guys who I kind of lost a lot of energy against.
And how important do you feel like the coaches that you have been into that progression?
Very important. I have some really good guys back home in Pittsburgh that are like family to me, and it makes a big difference whenever you're working with guys who care a lot about you, and who you kind of consider family, because you really want to see the best for each other, and my guys are helping me a ton.
And do you feel like having that close relationship, because you've also said they're like family, do you feel like that has benefits because if you are doing something wrong, they're not going to be afraid to say what's happened. They're just going to be upfront and just be like, "This is what you're doing wrong."
Yeah, I mean, I have that pretty much with all coaches. I think that in this sport, there's coaches aren't afraid to tell you negative feedback, um, but it's more of a positive thing with my guys, where we get a lot of positive feedback as well. A lot of this is going well, and you also get to work with guys who you can execute a little bit more on, and there's no ego, and it's really nice.
And if someone hasn't been familiar with your game so far, how would you describe your game?
Say boxing, wrestling, but expanding. I'd like to be well-rounded mixed martial artist when it's all said and done.
And are you wanting to showcase some of that wrestling in this fight coming up?
Definitely, definitely. I've been wrestling more in general. I've been just since I broke my thumb as just getting back in shape. Been doing a lot more straight wrestling with some old teammates of mine. That's just because I like it. It's really fun. So if I don't get it done on the feet early, I think it'll be fun to show off the new and improved grappling game that I have.
Exactly. Thank you for coming on today. Do you have a prediction for your fight?
I think finish. That's my goal. I want to finish.
Thank you. I'll give you the final word. Is there anyone you are wanting to shout out?
Nope, just tune in to PFL August 2nd, ESPN.
Make sure you tune in. It's going to be a great fight night. You can see Cody get the victory. Thank you for coming on today, and I hope you have a great fight and hope you get the victory.
Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me.